Hello, my name is Holly Potter-Harvey, and I will be doing my oral presentation over my thesis, which investigates possible interdisciplinary solutions for childhood obesity using the disciplines of marketing and education. While I think everyone hopes that we find a solution for such complex problems, I think acknowledging that there quite possibly is not just one right solution just might be the key to interdisciplinary studies itself. That has been really hard for me to grasp, and I think doing this project I have realized that there just might not be one right answer. The articles I researched for my thesis came from the disciplines of marketing and education, and they present different statistics and solutions to the obesity epidemic facing the youth of America today, both children and adolescents. Marketing research suggests that development of new foods and implementation of government regulation and ultimately holding parents responsible are the solution for this plague on our kids. Education, on the other hand, really says that healthy food choices and educating kids on this, implementing policies within the schools, and increased physical activity, and even going a step further by combining all of these together will render the best outcome in beating this disease. In a study done by Common Sense Media in 2013, statistics were alarming. They found that 38% of kids under age 2 had used tablets or smartphones. That's under age 2. They haven't even hit their verbal boom yet where they are speaking in sentences. They haven't had the explosion of language skills at age 2, and they're already using tablets or smartphones. Then in another study, according to this one in 2013, among families with children age 8 and under, there has been a 5-fold increase in ownership of tablet devices such as iPads. So it's grown from 8% of all families in 2011 to 40% in 2013. The percent of children with access to some type of smart mobile device at home, for example, an iPhone or an iPad, has gone from half to 3/4 of all children in just 2 years. So 3 out of 4 children have access to a smart mobile device in their homes. With this increased accessibility to the internet, there's an increased exposure to marketing. So what this means is that parents are using this technology as a babysitter or a supplemental entertainer for their children, with the validation that they are actually helping encourage education within their children by doing so. Through apps that encourage education, verbal skills, hand-eye coordination, etc. In doing so, they have really given a wide berth for marketers to be able to reach their children, aside from the traditional television, radio, etc. Concurrent to the increase in media in the modern child's life, there's also been an alarming rise in childhood obesity. More than 1/3 of children and adolescents are overweight. That's 1 in 3, 2 in 6, or 3 children in any traditionally sized preschool class. So I have a 2.5-year-old. 3 children in her class would probably be considered obese. These kids are kicking activity to the curb and replacing it with technology. How does this affect our children long term? According to the CDC, children and adolescents who are obese are at a greater risk for bone and joint problems. Children who are obese also tend to be obese adults, which translates into long-term health, thinking diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. With all of that being said, we must ask ourselves, how is the media and advertising affecting this childhood obesity rate, and what solutions can we offer, if there are any to be found, within this discipline? In order to even begin to examine this, we must use multiple disciplines like we discussed before. For this investigation, we'll look at education and marketing, like we talked about. We're going to synthesize what we find, which hopefully could possibly lead us to the beginning of a movement to help get our children healthy again. Marketing is the key discipline to be studied and addressed in the face of childhood obesity epidemic. the prevalence and accessibility of mass communication, not only to adults, but also to the younger and younger groups. The increased technology has led some companies to create marketing campaigns that just specifically target children and youth. According to the Center for Science in the Public Interest, companies market food to children on television, radio, the internet, magazines, through product placement in movies and video games and apps, in schools, on product packages that the children are already consuming, toys, clothing, merchandise, and almost anywhere a logo or product image can be placed that a child will see it. The total amount spent on food marketing to children is about $10 billion a year. There's direct evidence that food advertising increases a child's preference for foods and their requests to their parents. So how do we fix this side of it? Well, advertising executives have lowered the amount of money spent to market to children. They've also reappropriated funds so that the money is not spent on marketing bad items, but is focused on some more nutritionally healthy, valued foods and products. We also have seen an attempt by the government to regulate advertising to kids, but the marketing industry has really been reluctant to accept regulation. The marketing executives argue that self-regulation is the key and that parents are the issue. They back this by the fact that even when the marketing is targeted at children, they're not the ones who are actually purchasing said items. The parents are, and they have the ability to say no and discipline and instill a value in their own kids. Regulation is a very slippery slope to censorship, and while some researchers in this industry say that regulation on the products one can market to kids and the amount of dollars that can be spent to market to kids, you begin to infringe, or it seem to some, infringe on the rights and censorship and freedom of speech. Other suggested solutions that have already been implemented are such things as removing coupons or toys from items which are devoid of nutritional value. Let's take a look at the education perspective. Education is so important in any complex problem, but when we're talking about children more so. School-age children spend a majority of their day with the educational system and spend more time with their teachers than they do their own parents. So this is a great platform for us to educate kids on any kind of agenda we have. We can really push it in the school system. The total amount spent on food marketing to children is about $10 billion a year. We already talked about that earlier. So let's look at education. Like if we were to keep advertising constant, let's look at education completely separate and see what we could do there. There are many programs that the federal government supports in our schools to combat this obesity epidemic in our children. According to the CDC, schools provide an ideal setting for children and teens to learn how to adopt healthy eating and physical activity behaviors. With all of the programs available and changes in lunch programs, we still have vast improvements to make in our educational system to help beat this. The suggestion of multi-level wellness programs rather than simply an Eat Right program or a Get Moving program is a solution that we're seeing being pushed and getting children moving. We're seeing it being combined and being pushed. And there's better results coming from that than just the simply Eat Right push. But there's also research that denounces this as well. It's crazy. The research results we see, the students who attend schools with established nutrition programs that follow the Center for Disease Control guidelines had significantly lower obesity rates. In fact, they were 4.1% as compared to 10.1% in schools without such programs. Then it goes on to say that schools with established wellness programs that incorporate healthy eating choices with physical activity but do not follow the Center for Disease Control's guidelines had little to no difference in obesity levels as compared to those schools with no wellness program at all. So it's really a double-edged sword with the research. We have research that supports that when we combine healthy eating with Get Moving programs, we're seeing a better result. Possibly because you're more motivated in different aspects. And then we have research that says that this is not working, but maybe it's not working because we're combining them, but because we're not following the Center for Disease Control's guidelines. So when addressing the problem of childhood obesity through the eyes of an interdisciplinary approach, one can see the strengths and weaknesses of both marketing's and education's premises and analyze either side of both cases. From this insight, one can find a solution that utilizes information from both knowledge bases and is beneficial to both disciplines involved. I really have learned in this that there is no one right answer. What works for A might not work for B, and if we combine all of it, it might work better, and if we combine all of it, it may combust. So the quest for knowledge on the childhood obesity issue is going to continue, and solutions on this topic are going to arise over the next few years, hopefully with improvement on the situation and without compromise of our rights at the same time, if that's how you feel those do. I hope that you learned a lot from this. I know that I did. Whether I came out knowing an answer to this complex solution or knowing how to research multiple disciplines in order to synthesize this information to get a better idea of the problem and what we can do to combat it. Thanks.